Who's the black private dick that's a sex machine to all the chicks? You're damn right. Who is the man that would risk his neck for his brother, man? Can you dig it? Who's the cat that won't cop out when there's danger all about? Right on. You see, this cat chef is a bad mother. Shut your mouth. What I'm talking about, Chef? He's a complicated man, but no one understands him but his woman. John Jack.
All right, day 50. Day 50. 50 days. The White House stood in front of the American people at day 38 or so and said, mission accomplished. Mission accomplished. Iran's Navy obliterated. Iran's Air Force grounded. Iran's missiles destroyed. Victory. Today is day 50. And this morning, or this evening, as you're watching this, actually, this morning when I was preparing for the show, it changes so much. I have to prepare all week. And then, it changes because things changes rapidly. But as you're watching this, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard gunboats are firing on oil tankers in the Strait. Ships are turning around. 21% of the world's oil is still locked up. And President Trump was on Air Force One telling reporters, and I quote, maybe I won't extend the ceasefire. So you'll have a blockade, and unfortunately, we will have to start dropping bombs again. That's not victory. That's a stalemate with a body count. 13 Americans are dead. I hear it's 14 that they may talk about. I hear the number is much more than that, but they have classified this information now. The Department of War, as Pete Hegseth and President Trump call it, has classified any KIA or any injuries coming from the battlefield, coming from this war. So those numbers, I would gather to say, are not correct. I know we were at, 320 wounded. We have 39 aircraft lost, $18 billion spent in the first 3 weeks alone. And the Pentagon came back to Congress, of course, asking for more money, $200 billion more. And the same strait we went to war over, the same strait that was open prior to February 28th, fine, everything flowing freely, that same strait. Well, Iran closed it again today, day 50. So let me ask you a question before we even get into this tonight. I have a couple of questions. But ask yourself, who is still in control, or who is in control? Okay, we had Iran that closed the strait, then we had Trump that did a blockade. And here's what people don't really understand and recognize, because they don't know the area, and they can't see the area. When Trump talks about a blockade, right? I know people have in their mind that there's warships sitting right outside the Strait of Hormuz, and they're keeping ships from coming in and out. Well, that's not it. That's not it. You have to realize that these ships, these American ships, are more than 500 miles away from the strait or from the coast of Iran. Over 500 miles, or they would probably be targeted. So this isn't something that, if you picture in your mind that the American Navy, that our Navy is right there, they're away from the Strait of Hormuz. So it's obvious that they have no control, or we have no control of or over the Strait of Hormuz. Now, I understand that, coming on the show, that we may have boarded an Iranian ship or took a flagship, or we've made 21 ships turn around. I don't know, because I can't verify that. I'm not there. I only can tell you what, of course, our mainstream media, our podcasts, our, State Department, War Department, Trump, I can only tell you what they say until I verify. But apparently they say that 21 ships have been turned around by the American Navy. I find that kind of hard to believe, because it's it's kind of large out there in the Persian Gulf. And I'm not sure. We don't have that many ships out there, okay? We have carriers probably, 500 miles away, and they're not in the same, like, close location. They're close together to where they can reach each other in minutes, but they're not, like, right there forming a straight line. We don't have that many ships out there. We at most have, 2 carrier battle groups out there. So that'll put maybe 2 destroyers, 3 destroyers per carrier group. Maybe we may have a total of maybe 8 ships out in the Persian Gulf on this blockade. Maybe 8. So it's not something that we're actually in control of. When you listen to President Trump and you listen to the State Department, you would think, well, we're in total control. We got this total blockade. No, it's not like that. So Go to a map, look at how big the Persian Gulf is, find the Strait of Hormuz, and go 500 miles from the strait because that's where our ships are. We're not located anywhere on the coast of Iran. But welcome to the Radical Republicans Live Show. Of course, I am Chief Jarome Bell, and today, as usual, we are going to go hard because Iran is still in control. Iran is still in control, and I'm going to give you the full picture. Okay, I'm going to give you the 50-day situation report here tonight. Okay, but first, let me say hello to some people. Robert, Chocolate Lab, thank you for your first time coming in, brother. I appreciate you, man. You say you just found this channel, and I followed you when I was stationed at Norfolk. Okay, well, hey, man, appreciate you, brother. Thank you for coming in. Just retired, congratulations. Welcome to the other side. Welcome to the other side. And yes, being retired is great. It's great. Hey, if you can throw up in the chat, man, where were you stationed at and what you did would be totally awesome, man. But thank you for coming into the show. And I see you, Jackie and Susan, and of course Carolyn, my regulars here on YouTube and whatnot. And I see Pure Blood over there in the Getter chat. And the Getter chat, the Getter chat has gotten a little lack, right? You know, the Getter chat over here used to be full, but you know, I think my approach. Hey, K9 girl is here, right? I mean, you guys saw how you know how full the Getter chat was before I started to speak my truth and the truth that I see it and the truth that I know it about how I felt President Trump was doing and what he was doing. You know, I said, hey, if I lose followers, if I lose listeners, it is what it is. I'm not going to lose my dignity. I'm not going to lose my soul. I'm not going to lose my sleep. I'm not going to lose my integrity to blindly support something that I don't believe in. And I do not believe that we should be in this war. I do not believe that this was a war for America. I do not believe that this helps America in any way. It only hurts America. I gave you some numbers: 13 dead, aircraft lost, billions of dollars spent, and this was all for Israel. And Marco Rubio told you that on day one. He told you that on day one before he backtracked. You know, so why are we here? So you know, it's pretty funny because you know, doing this weekly and coming on, you know, and you know, like you know, I've told you guys before, it gets a little tiring, right? And I think, I'm gonna take a break. Then I see somebody new in the chat. Then I see somebody new watching the show. I mean, but so in the straight, let me tell you what happened in the last 48 hours. If you don't know, some people out doing yard work. You know, I was out doing yard work earlier. I know Susan was out doing yard work. I went out, cut my grass, went to the grocery store, cut the grass. You know, I do regular stuff, you know, like a regular guy too, right? You know, for the family, you know, cut the grass, went out, ran to the store, and you know, early in the day before I sat down to do the show, I pretty much was finished and completed prepping the show yesterday, and then just making sure I was current on things today. And I'm still not current because I guess some things changed while I was getting ready to come on the show. But Friday, April 17th, Iran announced that the strait was completely open for commercial traffic. And here it is. And oil prices, and President Trump made sure to make his market manipulating post, which I think he does a lot. I believe he manipulates the market on behalf of his family and his friends. I'm just going to say it. It's kind of obvious to me. And I'm going to play a video, right? I think I'm going to share a screen and I'm going to play a video tonight. If you haven't seen those Lego videos, Iran is killing it with the truth, Lego videos, man. It is like off the chain wild how accurate these videos truly are if you really look at it and you really see what's going on, right? So I'm going to play the latest one here in a minute. that about this oil thing, right? And the stock market rallied, right? Everybody saw it. The stock market rallied. The prices dropped 11% immediately after they announced it. And then President Trump went on and he went on and posted about Truth Social saying the strait is open, but the U.S. naval blockade of Iranian ports remain in place. I'm like, dude, why, man? You're literally 500 miles away. And for those that don't understand how Iran could open and close the straits, okay, and how they opened it for commercial traffic. Okay, they control the entire corridor, right? So they dropped mines out there in the middle, wherever they are, right? They know where they are. And then they guide ships, and the ships have to maintain a certain course and come through a certain corridor of water to get through, in or out, right? Okay. They have to pay the toll, which is in yuan. Okay. So they opened it for commercial traffic, but it was open on the consideration that, and on the understanding, the way I understand it, is that President Trump was going to stop the blockade, right? During the ceasefire. Now, this was just during the ceasefire. So Saturday, April 18th, Iran closed the strait again because President Trump reneged and didn't stop the blockade. And the IRGC gunboats fired on an Indian flagged oil tankers. India summoned Iran's ambassador. Now, what happened with that? And I understand. So here's Iran's full statement on that. Okay, until until the U.S. restores full freedom of navigation for vessels traveling from Iran, the strait remains tightly closed or tightly controlled. Not even closed, but just controlled. IRGC called the U.S. blockade acts of piracy and maritime theft. And I'm going to ask you a question. That's going to be the second question here in a few minutes about piracy. But they did, I guess, fire on the Indian gunboat. That was flying the Indian flag, and I suppose it was a confusion because the Indian tanker thought that the strait was open because we have that relationship with India, and President Trump probably called, "Hey, the strait is open." They got the tweet or the truth from President Trump. The strait is completely open. And so the Indian tanker started going through. Or what the Indian tanker they didn't check with Iran and understand, yeah, it's open, but we still control who comes through and who doesn't, because you have to come through this corridor and you have to pay the toll first. But yeah, it's open, right? So you guys understand where I'm going and where we're following right now. We're tracking. So here's the leverage play. So Iran's actual power on this. The Strait of Hormuz is 21 miles wide at its narrowest point. Okay. Put this in your head. Like I say, go look at a map, man. You guys got to understand this. Approximately 20% of globally traded oil passes through it daily basis, right? Roughly 20 million barrels. Iran has demonstrated it can open and close it at will, doing so multiple times during this conflict. As it closes, opens, closes. I saw a meme today. It was, who was it? Daffy Duck and Bugs Bunny, right? And they was like, Hormuz is closed, Hormuz is open, Hormuz is closed, Hormuz is open. You know how they do that on the tree. For those of you that old enough to know about Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck. So the U.S. blockade, it costs Iran literally about $400 million per day in lost revenue. And that's a lot of money for a country that's trying to rebuild, a country that has been economically hit by the United States and by Besant, with sanctions, right? But Iran is using the strait as a counter lever. And wouldn't you, though, right? Wouldn't you? I mean, because they actually control that waterway. So Iran's demands this is what they want, all right? Into the war, region wide. They want to stop Israel from just keep attacking and trying to take over territory in the Middle East, because that's the play. This is what this whole thing is about, right? And the United States is involved in it. Other countries, man, Pakistan. I mean, you go to the world um, Security Council meetings, and nobody, literally nobody, is on Israel's side because they know what they're doing. They know they're committing genocide, and you have to listen to the Pakistan envoy on that. It's pretty fire. So we are the only ones that support Israel in this endeavor because we have all of the Zionists wrapped around Trump, and this is what they want. They want Gaza for their hotels. They want this to be a big play area, money making area for these billionaires. This is what this all is all about. Greater Israel. They want Israel to be the big dog and the only dog in the Middle East, and you can't have that. You can't have that for these other countries to survive. And Iran is standing up really for all of these other countries. I don't get to be, if I'm one of those countries, I'm with Iran, to be honest. I'm with Iran. Because I wouldn't want a country like Israel to be the big bully, to be able to just bully and take over our country at will. This is what's happening down in Lebanon now. They've already taken over Gaza. They've taken over most of the West Bank. They're moving into southern Lebanon. And now they're saying they're going to occupy southern Lebanon. So this is just a big power play for Israel. We support it. We supply the bombs. We supply the money. We supply the weapons. And what Israel is doing, and you have to think about this, and I'm not at all cool with this because I don't want genocide committed with my tax dollars, and that's literally what's happening. Whether you're a fan of Israel or not, I'm sure you really don't want your money, your taxpayer dollars, going to a country that's committing genocide. And if you do, then you probably should just go live over there, to be honest. Now, I know I just hurt somebody's feelings again. I lost some more viewers. But Iran's demands, like I said, enter the war region-wide, security assurances. Look, dude, y'all can't keep attacking us just at will, man. Israel just can't keep attacking us at will. We want to stop this shit. No more attacks. No more. We are a sovereign country, and we want respect like a sovereign country. You just can't come and bomb us at will and not think that we're going to fight back, right? Sanctions relief. They want their money back. They have, and I hear this may be something coming up, they have $20 billion that we have frozen. So think about this too. If you're a country, you know what? Let's not just say a country. Let's just say you, right? And this is what Iran is going through. Let's say you, right? You, Susan, you, Carolyn, you, K9 girl, you, pure blood, Joseph, Lisa, Jackie, Robert, you guys, right? Let's just say the IRS froze your bank account. The federal government froze your bank account. You can't do any business. You can't pay your bills. You can't buy food. You can't pay your mortgage. You can't do anything. They froze your bank account. How would you feel? How would you feel about that? Would you want to fight the IRS? Would you want to go after the IRS? You'd probably be a little pissed, right? I know I would. Well, this is what sanctions are. And they can do it at any time because they control the money because of the petrodollar. This is one of the things that a lot of these countries in the Middle East and around the world are trying to get away from, because we control pretty much everybody's money because all trade is done in dollars mostly, especially the oil trade is done in dollars. So if we have sanctions, you can't buy oil, you can't, so so your country died. This is what's happened to Cuba. This is really the problem that Cuba has right now as well. Right? So we've been doing this to Iran for when they talk about 47 years, right? We've been sanctioning Iran for 47 years. So you think about that. And it's only been more pressure put on since Trump has been in office because they want Iran, because Israel want Iran. So now and they're just holding your money. The IRS is just holding your money and not giving it to you until you do exactly what they say, whatever it is that they want, right? Okay? You must open up your house to illegals. You must get rid of your car. You must move to this area. You must only use, 5 gallons of gas a week. You must walk to work. So they have all these restrictions and all these conditions for you, and they're holding your money. Well, this is the same thing that's happening with Iran right now, and we have about $20 billion of their money. So when they talk about Barack Obama gave pallets of cash, right? Pallets of cash to Iran, and $1.7 billion, I think it was. They flew pallets of cash, whatever. People were talking about. Well, that was Iran's money, and that was the agreement that Barack Obama made. You guys know I'm not a Barack Obama fan, but that was the deal with the JROC or JCOS, whatever it was, right? How because we actually had a deal to where Iran was not going to enrich or seek a nuclear weapon. That deal was already done. Barack Obama had already made that deal, and part of that deal was to relieve sanctions and give them their $1.7 billion back. That's what that was. They was just getting their money back that we had stole, that we held up. So this is the situation that's going on. This is some of the negotiations is that Iran wants their money back. So they want sanctions relief, okay? And the unfreezing of assets. That's what that is. They want their money unfrozen. We have 20 billion of their dollars. They want their money back. They want it unfrozen. And they want resolution of the nuclear dossier. So this is where we are, right? So when you look at it from a real life perspective, right? A real life perspective. If Iran truly wanted a nuclear weapon, now I'll tell you this, I believe they want one now, and damn it, you know what? I would want one too. At this point, okay, if you're gonna just keep attacking me whenever the frick you want to, you're gonna let Israel run roughshod all over the Middle East. They can attack whoever they want. They can go and take people's land, and we can't defend anybody, right? You want our nuclear, our nuclear enrichment, whatever program to stop. You want our ballistic missile program to stop totally. You don't want us to have any. So you don't want us to be able to defend ourselves in any way, right? So this is what the United States is asking. This is what we are asking. We don't want them to be able to defend themselves in any manner. We just want, okay, and then we want, well, you know what? Now we're going to come to Carg Island. Okay, now we're going to help you control and Trump has said it. Shit, we're just going to come take the oil. So think about it. If Iran had no ability to defend themselves, Trump said that what we would do, we would just go take the oil. He thought it was going to be just that easy because he's a dumbass. Okay, he's a tyrant. He's acting like a tyrant, and I can't help that people are mad at me for just calling it like I see it. How would you like if someone just came in your house and just took your shit? And you want me to be okay with that? People want me to be okay and follow Trump and say, yeah, man, just go take their shit. Well, you know what? How about if somebody just came and took your shit? How would you feel violated if someone just came in your house and broke in your house and took your shit? See, and that's what a lot of people, that they don't feel that because they're not people. I don't understand these individuals that want to continue to follow this rhetoric and follow this doctrine of going to just take people's shit. And I was like, well, just wait till we go down to Cuba. Now they're going to go take Cuba shit. Well, unfortunately, Cuba can't fight back. And this is why we had the missiles, the Cuban Missile Crisis with Russia, when Russia put nuclear missiles down there pointed at the U.S., because the U.S. just wanted to go take their shit then. See, but what Trump underestimated was the 2,500 years of Persia blood libel. King Nebuchadnezzar, this is from Joe, got tired of child kidnapping and sacrifices, so in 586 BC, he sacked the synagogue of Satan. 2,500 years of Persia blood libel. Exactly. And that's what it's all about, man. And when you go back, right, and when they talk about, 47 years, right? Then they start at 1979. They always start at 1979. When somebody tell you, well, we've been at war in 1979, tell them to go back to 1953, because that's what I do. Go back and start at 1953, because that's when it started, and we started it. Go back to 1953 and then work your way through talking about, the Iraq-Iran war. We gave Saddam Hussein chemical weapons. Think about this now, right? We gave them the chemical weapons to use against Iran to kill Iranians. We did that. And Iranians supposed to be okay with that? Iranians supposed to just forget that shit, right? They're just supposed to forget that? And it's one thing that they underestimated too. The Persians are the smartest people in the world. You can look it up. You can Google it. You can AI it, whatever you want to do. They have the highest IQs in the world. These are no dummies. Iranians are no dummies. And all of their leadership, right? Their president, the leadership, all of them have PhDs. Every last one of them. They're highly educated. We don't have a bunch with a PhD on fucking Trump's cabinet. We have a bunch of power-hungry billionaires that believe that they should just own and just be able to take other people's stuff and just control the world. This is what we have. So when people, come at me and tell me, man, you just hate Trump. No, it's not about hating Trump. It's about really of loving America more than they do. But it's more about loving people. And I don't want the IRS come to take my shit. I mean, shit, how many of you those of you that paid taxes, you don't have to say if you did or not, because I know I was calling for a 2026 tax revote. But how many of you paid taxes and were mad you had to stroke a check? Right? And just think about the IRS freezing your stuff and just coming to take your stuff. So this is what Iran is facing, okay? So this is where we are, so I'm very empathetic on that. So here's the victory scorecard, right? I try to keep, the victory scorecard as far as what they say versus reality, right? This is Trump's victory scorecard versus reality. So remember, I said the White House at day 38 declared victory at day 38. 85%, this is what they said. This is what they said. And we're still here. This is day 50, right? 85% of Iran's defense industrial base was destroyed. This is what they said. Excuse me. Iran's Air Force had 0 flights per day. It was 30 to 100. 150 warships across 16 classes destroyed. Every submarine sunk. You heard Trump say that they were at the bottom of the ocean. They have nothing. 97% of Iran's naval mines eliminated. They have nothing. They've lost the war. They already won. I don't understand why they keep fighting us. That's Trump. But here's the reality. Here's the reality on day 50. Iran still controls the Strait of Hormuz. Closed it again yesterday. The IRGC gunboat still operational and firing on ships. So they still have a navy. Iran still has leverage over 20% of the global oil supply. Ceasefire expired, or didn't expire. Shit, it was one day down, up, down. The blockade in place, bombs may resume. That's reality. U.S. has not secured a nuclear deal. That was the stated goal of the entire thing, right? Wait. And regime change, where they didn't get regime change. They just killed a bunch of people, but they just, cycling through. His son, Khamenei is in charge, even though they say he's in the hospital, he's had a messed up face, his leg is blown off, all this stuff. Hey man, these people will lead till they die. Iran is still firing on tankers belonging to friendly nations like India. Now that was a mistake. I mean, that's being investigated, but it was a mistake. Iran came out and said, "Hey man, we're sorry, but bro, you still got to come through us. You just can't roll up through the strait. It ain't like that. Donald Trump ain't controlling this, right?" But let me tell you something. Actually, let me play this clip first. I'm going to find this first before I go on to China. I'm going to actually share my screen. And yes, I'm still producing my own show and all this good stuff. All right. Let me see. Because these videos, man, the videos are just so like really true, right? I mean, they have a lot of truth in these videos, and hold up. Okay, all right, I got it. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to let you guys watch this video for a second. Hold up. So you guys tell me what you think about this video, okay? You guys tell me what you think about it.
$20, 7,990 lots, $760 million. Someone knew something. Who's on the phone, Dunny? Who's on the phone? 20 minutes before the tweet, the shorts were placed. 799 lots, that's the winning pace. 750 million betting on the down. Someone had the news before it hit the town. Troll, insider trading? Nah, just a lucky guess. Brent crude was falling 11% down. Portfolios pumping in the golden crown. Who called the play? Who made the call? Same pattern every time. The writing's on the wall. 20 minutes before the tweet, the shorts were placed. 799, that's the winning taste. Payback. Florida says, give the money back. Soldiers starving in the sand, that's the real attack. March 23, 500 million short. 50 minutes later, Trump changed the sport. April 7, 950 more. Another short position walking through the door. Coincidence 3 times, come on man. Now Flores candidates screaming on the floor. Give our money back, every single law. 385 million sent across the sea. War criminal, baby, that's not chivalry. 20 minutes before the tweet, the shorts were placed. 799 is the winning case. Payback, Florida says, give the money back. Soldiers starving in the sand, that's the real attack. Independent, drop the truth. Troops are going hungry. Food packages from families stuck and blowing hungry. Mail stopped to the zone, boxes in the line. Soldiers asking Congress, why are we in this crime? They sent care packages, but the packages never arrived. Morale hitting bottom in the desert heat. Eating rations weekly, admitting defeat. While the shorts are making millions on the crude. Tell me who's the enemy, tell me who's the rule. Same account, same time, and every single time Trump tweets the news, the shorts commit the crime. Crypto over-coded patterns plain to see. Third time's the charm, who's paying the fee? Someone's getting a Christmas card from Mar-a-Lago. 760 million reasons to question the game. When the man who starts the war gets the winning frame. Florid wants payback, baby, give the cooling. But the shorts already cashed out, nothing left to join. 20 minutes Tween time. Same pattern, same pattern. 799. 760 million. 20 minutes before the tweet, the shorts were placed. 799, that's the winning taste. Payback. Florida says, give the money back. Soldiers starving in the sand, that's the real attack. 20 minutes. That's all it takes. 760 million reasons to investigate. But the Senate won't ask. The seat won't look. Because the man who signed the check wrote the book. Someone knew something! Someone always knows! Baby, where's my cut? Tweet.
So what do you guys think about that? What do you guys think about that? Wasn't it like so true, man? Right? Wasn't it like so true? Because you guys know, if you guys haven't heard the news and that hadn't followed on that, there's one account. It's just one account, and a lot of people are saying it's allegedly Barron, because he does his stock trades, he does this little thing. But apparently, it's just one account that's making all of this money, just a single account. So they want an investigation. Florida, congressman, they want an investigation. That was the Florida part on there. So what's your take on that? What is your take on that? I honestly think it's insider trading. I mean, it has to be, because if you look at just like tomorrow, okay, the market will fall tomorrow. He made an announcement this morning about tomorrow, and so somebody shorted tomorrow because the market's going to fall tomorrow. Just watch out for it. And so, but while we were blockading, right? Because China, right? China gets over 50% of their oil from Iran. So China's really pissed about this, but China is making moves. China is making moves in the back door. This is something, what I'm about to tell you, I know none of you, unless you read my post on Facebook, none of you have heard about what I'm about to tell you, because Trump's not talking about it. The and I say MAME, the lamestream media is not talking about it. Other podcast hosts are not talking about it. So I'm probably, most likely, 99.9% sure that this is the first time that you're going to hear what I'm about to tell you. See, so while we're fighting Iran, China just quietly moved to block the Scarborough Shoal in the South China Sea. So for those of you that don't know what the Scarborough Shoal is, right? Oh, how come this isn't opening for me? Oh, there you go, signing me in now. Like, what is this, man? Had some technical difficulties here, right? Hold up. Got to log back in. Okay, the Scarborough Shoals is an area in the South China Sea, off of the Philippines, right? The Philippines, they call it Bajo de Masinloc or something, but China call it the Huanggang Islands or something like that. I can't speak their language, but it's what it is. It's a triangular chain of reefs and rocks in the South China Sea, and it lies entirely within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone. Okay, that's where it lies at. But China claimed it as part of its territory. So China has controlled it since seizing it. They seized it in 2012 after a standoff with Philippine vessels, right? So what happened this week? Okay, I saw new satellite images obtained by Reuters on April 10th and 11th while we were, messing around with Iran, right? It shows 4 fishing boats anchored near the entrance, okay, a floating barrier stretched across it, and a Chinese naval or Coast Guard ship was spotted nearby. Okay, because this one images, right? Philippine Coast Guard spokesman Jay Chirelia confirmed that China installed a 352-meter floating barrier on April 10th and 11th, with 6 Chinese maritime militia vessels observed inside the shoal and 3 others positioned outside, obstructing the entrance. Okay. So, in between April 5th and April 12th, approximately 10 China Coast Guard vessels were operating in the waters near the Scarborough Shoal. So, what this is that China, the angle of that, right? About 30%, 30% of the entire, and I mean the entire world, not just oil, okay? Not just oil. 30% of the entire world's trade comes through the Scarborough Shoals. 30%. So imagine that, right? 30% of all of the world's trade comes through the shoals. Not just oil, okay? So we're talking the South China Sea itself. We're talking, listen to this number, 3 to 5 trillion in global trade annually. Like I said, that's about 30%. And the shoal sits at a strategically critical position between the Philippine Sea and the South China Sea, near major commercial shipping lanes connecting East Asia to Southeast Asia, the Middle East, Europe, and the Americas, the entire world. So, in fact, what China has done, China has done an embargo, basically, right? A blockade on world trade because the United States did a blockade on Iran. So China can't get their oil. See, because you guys have to understand that we're trying to hurt China too, and China recognizes this, right? So we got a lot of shipping lanes under pressure. Any escalation at the Scarborough shoals forces commercial vessels to, again, like you say, calculate the risk into their routing. And this is a big insurance thing, right? So even without kinetic conflict, insurance premiums on vessels visiting the South China Sea rise with the tension. The costs get passed downstream. So everything gets more expensive. This is the same thing. This is why, the Lords of London, they weren't insuring any of those vessels. They're not insuring any of those vessels going through the Strait of Hormuz. No matter what President Trump says, these ships are not insured. So this is the same thing that can happen with 30% of the world's economy. 30%. And you have to look at on the Filipino fishing economy, right? The most immediate trade impact is local on the Philippines. No doubt about that. No doubt about that, because the Filipino fishing communities, they depend on the Scarborough Shoal as traditional fishing ground, right? And the barrier directly eliminates their access to one of the richest fishing areas in their own economic zone. So that's a direct economic hit to the Philippine exports and livelihoods of the Philippines. So China's like, you know what? If you want to block the Strait of Hormuz, we're going to block the Scarborough Shoals. So this was China's play on the shoals. Anyway, a little background on this. So China declared a national nature reserve at Scarborough Shoal last year. And that was a legal pretext to eventually basically regulate or prohibit all foreign commercial activity in and around the area, including the fishing and potentially transit. So the bigger picture, strategic picture is this, and the timing of it all, right? The timing of all is the tell. So diplomats are watching closely. They're watching this. They know about it, but they're not telling you. They're not telling us about it, right? But they're watching. They know about it, but they're not going to say anything because it's China, right? So they're watching this amidst fears that China could take advantage of the perceptions that the U.S. is distracted by Iran and the Iran conflict that we are with our efforts to reopen the Straits of Hormuz. And there's two choke points pressured simultaneously. Two. See, but China has nukes. China has a Navy. China has Air Force. China has a 1 billion man army. So we're not talking about what's going on there, but there's two choke points right now pressured simultaneously that's going to affect not only the United States, but the world, okay? And Hormuz, Iran is the easier target. So you got to understand about bullies, right? You have to understand about bullies. Bullies not going to go fight the big tough guy. They're going to go fight the little guy that they believe they can beat. That's why we're going down to Cuba. And it pains me to say this. I really want you guys to understand how much it really pains me, because I love this country. I served this country for 27 years. And it pains me to have to say this, because it's like the truth, right? We're like the bully. Did you ever grow up with a bully, right? You bully in school, right? And how did you get rid of the bully? You had to go fight the bully. Iran is fighting the bully. Cuba can't fight the bully. Venezuela couldn't fight the bully. Iran's been preparing for 45 years. You have to understand this too. Iran has been preparing for 45 years to fight the bully. And if Iran wanted a nuclear weapon, Iran could have got one from China, North Korea, Russia at any time. You guys have to remember that. And so, two choke points pressured simultaneously at Hormuz and the South China Sea. It's not a coincidence, y'all. That's a coordinated stress test on global supply chains. If Hormuz tightens, energy flows west, right? And China tightens, the South China Sea east. You have a pincher on global trade that no single nation can easily counter at the same time. We can't fight both sides. We can't fight China. We just can't. China has warriors. We have people on ships that believe they're men on ships that believe they're women. Here's the Taiwan Strait overlay on top of that too. Okay, the Scarborough Shoal is also directly in the operational corridor between the Philippine Sea and any potential Taiwan contingency. See, China's smart. China's working the back door, man. China's all the way up in the back door. That's the total operational corridor between the Philippine Sea and any Taiwan contingency. So control of that shoal gives China the ability to interdict any U.S. naval movement, any commercial shipping in the Taiwan scenario. So don't believe this is just about fish. It's about who really controls the maritime approaches. Okay, and the bottom line on this one is, then I'm going to move on. But China isn't blocking trade today with that barrier. They're not blocking it, but they're positioning to control it tomorrow or the next day or whenever they want. So the gray zone doctrine is patient on this, right? So as each incremental move normalizes the next one. So by the time the barrier actually becomes a base, okay, because China's known for building bases, right? That barrier is going to become a base. You can best believe that. So the world will have already accepted the barrier as routine. Okay, they have to go through there, right? So And that's a trade threat. That's not a tariff. That's not a sanction. So you have to talk about, right? Trump is now he's talking about, well, we're going to put tariffs on again. He's talking about this tariff shit again that hadn't worked. Let's just be honest, it hadn't worked. It's not a sanction, not a tariff, not a sanction. This is a total trade threat from China. And China has already, if you guys didn't know this, right? China has already banned any sulfuric acid, and you have to understand this, right? Any sulfuric acid exports from China starting next month for the rest of 2026. The rest of 2026 until and they don't even know for how long, right? They don't even know how long until the immediate future. They don't know how soon, how long. They don't know, right? And what you have to understand about sulfuric acid, and they've already banned, the minerals coming out of there. They've already locked that down. And, China owns 75, 76% of the refining process of silver. So here it is. And this is why I say you still have to buy silver and hold on to silver, because they're just playing with the price a little bit. Sulfuric acid is one of the things that's needed for silver production and copper production. So because it melts down, the whole process, can't get into the chemical thing, the chemistry of it, but it melts, it helps melt down for the silver to be used, right? And so if we don't have sulfuric acid, we don't even have silver refineries here. We're trying to build one in Tennessee. And this is why. All right. See, because we're going to have a silver shortage here in the United States that's going to be unbelievable. We're not going to be able to get it. We're not going to be able to get the silver. We're not going to be able to get the sulfuric acid that we need. And guess what? We need silver for everything. We need silver for computers. We need them for our jets. We need them for our missiles. We need silver for everything that we do here in the United States, especially defensively. See, and China knows this. China's not playing a tough guy game like Trump. China's like, you know what? We'll let you play the idiot on the screen. We'll let you play the idiot on Twitter, on Truth. Have you ever seen Z Truth? Have you ever seen Z tweet or any of these world leaders like Trump does, man? He's an absolute idiot on the world stage. I have to say it. It's almost embarrassing. And I love the guy. I voted for him 3 times. I was Team Trump. I was at Mar-a-Lago. I'm up on the stage with Trump. I got pictures. I got campaign. I was all MAGA, 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 right? But I'm not MAGA cult, right? And right now it's embarrassing. What he's doing to our country is embarrassing. And while he's embarrassing us on the world stage, China is quietly in the back door locking shit down. Locking it down. So anyway, that's my spiel on that. And I hope you learned something from that, because you're not going to hear it from anywhere else. Definitely not going to hear it from anywhere else. So now we got 1 hour in the books already, man. That was a quick hour. Wow. But I'm going to keep going. I said that I was going to ask you question 2, right? So here's question 2. I spent a lot of time on that, but I wasn't even going to talk about the Scarborough shows, but I think you had to understand that you had to base that it's two it's 2 areas of restriction going on right now that's going to affect world economy. If China locks down that Scarborough shoals, man, look. So all right, here we go. So we talk about the piracy here. I'm going to play this video because I hate hypocrisy too. See, that's one of the things that I loathe is hypocrisy. And unfortunately, we have a lot of hypocrisy. And like I said, I called myself a conservative, which I am, but I call myself a Republican. And since I've been speaking the truth and really just been speaking what I see, calling, a spade a spade, I really see the hypocrisy. I've seen it before, right? But it's just much more clear how much hypocrisy we have in the Republican Party. the same thing that, because okay, everyone saw that picture of Jesus, Trump, right? Pretending or whatever, right? Everybody saw that, right? Then he came out and said, "Oh, I didn't know what it was. I thought I was a doctor." That bullshit, right? And I put up a video. I changed the picture, AI, and put Obama on there. And I said, "Look, now if Obama would have did this, all of you Republicans that are clapping Trump on the back and making excuses for him, and he didn't know there was demons flying, and it's been changed 4 or 5 times, and see, here's my thing with that, right? Okay, one, Trump should have known better to post it, but he didn't think he was a doctor. He thought he was Jesus. Let's just be honest. The man lies a lot. I mean, he does lie a lot, and so I mean, one, he shouldn't have posted, right? Two, when he got the clap back, right? When everybody was up in the roar, when everybody was talking about it, man, all he had to do was say, "Hey, I didn't know. I apologize. I didn't really view it. I didn't think it was that bad. My fault, right?" But he comes out and said, "Oh, well, I thought I was a doctor healing people." Well, you ain't never been a damn doctor. He says, "Oh, because I heal a lot of people." No, the fuck you don't. Who do you heal, dude? You were actually the architect of 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 the jab, Operation Speed, or whatever it was, right? Come on, man. So anyway, let's just not go there, dude. Just apologize, but he can't. He can. Have you ever heard him? Have you ever? And he never. Have you ever heard him apologize for anything that he's done, said, anything? No. That was a moment. That was a moment where he probably could have gotten one or two of his base back. He could have gotten one or two of his base back if he just would apologize and not lie and say, "Oh, I thought I was a doctor." So anyway, so you know that. And Pete Hegseth, I'm gonna play 2 clips of Pete Hegseth because they're both funny. Because one is hypocritical Pete, and one is obviously he doesn't watch movies Pete. So let me play this for you. I mean, and we're gonna talk about this because now I'm gonna ask a question after I play this one.
To be clear, threatening to shoot missiles and drones at ships, commercial ships that are lawfully transiting international waters, that is not control. That's piracy. That's terrorism.
Certainly Venezuela is taking notice of that, and it continues because 2 oil tankers, 2 overnight, were seized by the United States of America, stateless or sanctioned, because the oil blockade, the quarantine of oil out of unsanctioned or sanctioned or stateless vessels continues. That leverage will continue as Secretary Rubio outlined. So,
as you've seen today, 2 more ships were seized. We are in the midst right now and, in fact, about to execute on a deal to take all the oil. They have oil that is stuck in Venezuela. They can't move it because of our quarantine and because it's sanctioned. We are going to take between 30 and 50 million barrels of oil. We're going to sell it in the marketplace at market rates, not at the discounts Venezuela was getting. That money will then be handled in such a way that we will control how it is dispersed.
So my question is, okay, so you heard that. See, they play this semantics on words to make it legal, right? State sponsored, non-state sponsored, right? So you have to understand. So my question, who's the pirate? Right? We call, and you just heard, basically, Hegseth call Iran pirates, right? And they've been calling them, Trump says it. We sanction them. We condemn them. We send carrier groups over to the Persian Gulf over it. But let me give you the facts, and you tell me. This is a question for you. You tell me who the pirate is. After listening to this, you tell me who's the pirate, okay? After what you said, Hegseth said, and Rubio and whatnot, right? Iran controls the Strait of Hormuz. It's their waters, just like the South China Sea, just like the Scarborough Shoals. China controls their waterways, their water, right? Nobody's talking about China, okay? But most of these countries, they control their coastline, right? Iran controls the Strait of Hormuz. It's their waters, it's their coastline, okay? Their exclusive economic zone under international law, okay? It's theirs under international law. So when they stop a ship transiting those waters, they are asserting coastal state authority. That's not piracy. That's a toll booth. They do it at the Panama Canal. They do it, at the Red Sea. They do it at a couple of these different waterways, right? They charge a toll. These countries that control those waterways, you have to pay a fee to go through. You have to pay a fee to go through through the Panama Canal in these places, right? But you may not like it because it's Iran, because it's them. You may not like it because you've been told all of this bad stuff about Iran, so you may not like it. I don't necessarily like it, but it's legal. But legally, we're talking legality here, right? Legally, that's a coastal state enforcing transit conditions in its own backyard. Now, let me tell you what we do. We board ships on the open ocean in international waters, in third-party ports thousands of miles from American soil. We're not even on our coast. We're not guarding waters on our coastline. We do. That's why we have the Coast Guard around America, right? To guard and control our waters. What is it? 100 miles away from shore, I think, is our territory for the Coast Guard. But we can blow up any boat out there anyway. Heck says they do it all the time, right? So think about it. We board ships on the open ocean in international waters, in third-party ports thousands of miles from American soil. And you heard Rubio say it. We seize cargo. We take the oil. We confiscate the vessels. And we do it under executive sanctions authority alone. Our authority, executive sanctions authority alone, by the authority of the President of the United States. Executive sanctions authority alone, by the authority of the Department of the Treasury, by the President of the United States, not by any international law, not by any other authority, but our own. So there's no flag state consent. So this is when they talk about state-sponsored, non-state sponsored, right? If you're sponsored by a state, you're flying their flag, right? This is what they're talking about. So we do it. There's no flag state consent. There's no congressional authorization. There's no letters of marque. There's no declaration of war to do it. So just an executive order and a Navy with some big ships and big guns and some helicopters and some special forces. Now go back to the definition of piracy. Unauthorized seizure at sea without consent. That's the definition of piracy. Let me say it again. Unauthorized seizure at sea without consent. One word makes it piracy: consent. Right? And we don't get consent to do it. We just do it. We just do it because we have the biggest, the baddest ships and the biggest guns and the special forces and the helicopters, right? So the founders already solved this problem. See, this if we just live and just operate it by the Constitution, we'd be all right because the founders already solved the problem. Article 1, Section 8. Congress alone has the power to issue letters of marque and reprisal. Congress. That's not by accident, because it keeps the president from being the king. It keeps the president from doing executive orders to do this without consent. It's right there, Article 1, Section 8. Congress alone has the power to issue letters of marque and reprisal, okay? Because the founding fathers, they watched kings send navies to seize ships and call it law. And they said, never again. not without Congress. And then Alexander Hamilton, Federalist number 69, stood before a skeptical American public and made a promise. He said the president's power was nothing like a king's. The Congress held that sword. They held the sword on that. That no executive could seize, sanction, or make war without legislative authority. He said this to reassure us, the American people, the citizen. Hamilton was either lying or we've become exactly what he promised we would never be. So, because right now, today, the executive branch is boarding vessels in the open ocean on the president's say so alone, no Congress, no consent, no constitutional authority. Iran charges tolls in their own waters. We board ships in international waters on executive order. So my question to you is, who's the pirate? That's the question. What's up, Jamie? I see you, kid. But that's the question. Who's the pirate? I just gave you the rundown. I just gave you the rundown, man. And it hurts, man, right? It hurts when you actually, take your emotion, take everything out of it and just let's just talk about legal, man. Let's talk about what's right and what's legal. Not because we're the United States. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to just read these names because I think they still need to be read. These people still need to not be forgotten. It's a 13 confirmed USA KIA Operation Fury deaths and people that didn't come home. These Americans who didn't come home. Again, for, I believe, a war that's unconstitutional, a war that was not, even though people are going to argue with me on that because of the War Powers Act, which should not be in effect, the 2001 authorization use of military force that they're still using should be canceled. And this is what's coming out in Kuwait. These people died in Kuwait in the Kuwait drone strike. Now it's coming out, investigation. Some of these soldiers and stuff are talking. And I believe the more I hear about it, the more I hear the stories, they sacrifice these people. They sacrifice these soldiers. They sacrifice these Marines and these Army and Air Force. They sacrifice them because stories are coming out that they had no protection where they were at in Kuwait from missiles. None. So either Hegseth and the people in this operation, all the way down from President Trump, they didn't understand for whatever reason, because they seem to always go off the bad information that they get from Israel. They didn't have good intelligence on what Iran was going to do. And you can't really use that as an excuse. If you are going to go to war with a country, you better know every damn thing about them, every ounce of their capabilities. You better know, and you better be able to protect your people. Well, it's coming out that there was no protection for any of these bases. No, like buildings, like bomb shelters. Because I know for a 100% fact that people I know that was stationed in Bahrain at the time had to go into the parking garage underneath the building to hopefully live. This is where they had to go. There were no bunkers. They had to go into the parking garage. But these first 6 were assigned to the 101st Third to the 103rd Sustainment Command, Des Moines, Iowa. Captain Cody Cork, 35, Winter Haven, Florida. Major Jeffrey O'Brien, 45, Waukee, Iowa. Sergeant First Class Noah L. Tegens, 42, Bellevue, Nebraska. Sergeant First Class Nicole M. Amore, 39, White Bear Lake, Minnesota. Specialist Declan J. Cody, 20 years old, West Des Moines, Iowa. Chief Warrant Officer 3, Robert Marzon, 54, Sacramento, California. Tech Sergeant Tyler Simmons, these are all additional confirmed KIA. Tech Sergeant Tyler Simmons, 28, Columbus, Ohio, 101st Air Refueling Wing. He died in the March 12th aircraft crash in Iraq. He actually volunteered for the mission. And they had 6 additional crew members killed when they were refueling the aircraft. Crashed in western Iraq. So when we talk about cost, that's the biggest cost. You know, you hear about President Trump and you hear Hegseth and you hear about these people about the financial cost. So, well, it's costing Iran $500 million a day. They've suffered financial cost. This, and how did President Trump put it? It's going to take them 10 years or 100 years to get back to where they were or whatever nonsense. But let's talk about the cost. Let's talk about the cost. To us, the blood, the treasure, and the straight, I call it, right? So let's talk about financial first. Financially, U.S. military costs estimated at, and this is just up until March 19th, right? I don't even have the estimates past March 19th because they're still going on, right? But you figure another month. So 18 billion by March 19th. So we're up close to probably 26 billion. The Arab countries that got bombed, I mean, they're destroyed. The bases, see, and this is one thing that they're not going to tell you. Those bases of ours are destroyed. Once again, it's classified, right? It's classified information. My ears itching. Hate when that happens. Classified information on the basis, classified information on everything coming out of Operation Fury. They've locked down all of the information. And I'm still waiting on the names of those pilots that we rescued, and especially the one that used 151 planes when I know, and I said that it was a botched raid on an island trying to get nuclear weapons or whatever. That was botched because the story of the pilot when they came out with the news conference to try to get in front of the narrative, when Trump came out and talked about the planes and, the helicopters were set up in 10 minutes and, I'm like, dude, that's bullshit. The helicopters coming off the plane only took 10 minutes. to put back together, to put the rotors, and it takes longer than that to just start the plane. And how did they start it? I mean, it's just a whole bunch of stuff that doesn't make sense about that entire operation. And the one that totally makes sense, I'm waiting on it. I'm waiting on a name. They won't even release the name, and they didn't die. So normally, when they don't die, right? And even after they die, they, and notify the next of kin, right? They treat them like heroes, and they mention their names, so they can be, glorified and everything, right? Well, they haven't mentioned any names. They say, oh well, it's still an ongoing operation. No, it's not. They're out of the war zone. We here's my theory. Now they say we rescued him, right? Okay, no, it was a debacle. That was a total operation. So it was a debacle because we've never sent 151 planes out to search for nobody, and we never will. Cost too much. I don't know if you guys understand that, but listen when I tell you this, okay? The government does not care about any of their soldiers that much, any of their people that much, that they are going to spend the money in a potential battle zone, 151 aircraft to go and search for one person. Ain't gonna happen. Ain't gonna happen. I don't care how much they tell you that. They'll send a helicopter, 2, 3 helicopters. They'll do that. But 151 airplanes and everything. No, this was an operation. And don't let them gaslight you on it. Don't let them gaslight you on it. This was an operation to hopefully take that, to get in and take the nuclear dust or weapons or uranium or whatever, and it failed. It failed tremendously. And the backup plan, oh, well, we went to go get the pilot. So the pilot that ejected 150 miles away from where the operation went down, right? And in Trump's own words, say he was gravely injured. He was bleeding profusely. But this dude had to be Rambo from the movies. Had a broken leg and breathing profusely and all this, but he happened to hike 150 miles from where his jet went down, climb 7,000 miles in enemy territory, climb 7,000 feet up a mountain to escape to where we supposedly picked him up at. Look, man, here's what I think. Here's why they haven't, and here's why they haven't mentioned at least his name. I don't know about the other. They say they got him, right? I know they say they got him. They say they got him. Iran is saying we have some captured people over there. Iran said that they've captured some people, and one of them people was that pilot. This is what Iran is saying. So when they get back home, you have to understand, when they get back home, they're safe, right? They're safe. Their mission is over. They're not in the zone. They're not, captured, right? They always mention their names. This guy would have been on the Today Show. He would have been on Sunday shows. He would have been plastered on all of these different shows, unless they just didn't want to, but they still have to release his name. That's public knowledge. They have to release the name. But here's why I think they don't. Here's my theory, just my gut, right? Just my gut, knowing that I know they didn't do this mission like this to recover one pilot, and I know that pilot didn't on a broken leg and breathing profusely and gravely injured, like Trump said in that news conference, did not evade and escape and survive 150 miles. And you guys have to understand this. Listen. This was a 48, it's like in 48 hours, right? Listen. This was like 48 hours, right? 48 hours, right? From where his plane went down, or her plane, or whoever, injured. There was no way possible in hell that even even a healthy, even someone that wasn't injured, they're not going to hike 150 miles in 48 hours and climb a 7,000-foot ridge mountain in 24 to 48 hours. That ain't going to happen. Stop it. Stop it. It's not going to happen. So here's why I think. You can give me your opinion if you want. Here's why I think they haven't released the name, at least of the last one. I don't know why they haven't released. They say they got the first one, but here's what I believe. Because here's what they won't do. Here's what they won't do. They will not release a name of a prisoner of war. So I believe, I don't care who they march out in front of you. Supposedly there's some video of some lady that said, "Oh, it was me," but she was like the lady that, crisis actor or some shit. But I believe that the pilots were captured and we didn't rescue anybody, and they haven't released their names because they can't release the names of prisoners of war. And this is why they classified everything. Now you can say, "Hey, well, they're not releasing the names because it's classified because Hegseth classified it." But they released you got to think about it. They released the names of the KIAs. We have those, at least some of them. We don't have all of them. But they released the names of the KIAs. Why not release the names of the guys of the people that we rescued? They're heroes, right? So I just threw that out there for you for something to think about. So financial costs, let's go back. Iran assesses own economic damage at about 300 billion to 1 trillion. We got naval blockade cost us. Listen, this naval blockade is cost Iran, about 500 million a day. But global energy markets are paying. We're paying. How much is it costing us? How much is this war costing us? See, that's the cost that's not even figured in, right? What is this costing America, the American people, not just not just the military, but the population. So we got Goldman Sachs projected Saudi Arabia, UAE GDP could contract by 3 to 5% in 2026, Qatar up to 14%. Okay. So we had 39 U.S. aircraft lost over 39 days of major combat. Is it 39 aircraft? I don't think we lost that many. But maybe we have, but it's classified. Maybe I'm getting some information that I don't have. But anyway, we had another 10 damaged. We had drone fleet absorb 60% of losses. We had 24 MQ-9 Reapers destroyed. Those things are like, shit, 2 to 5 million apiece, right? We had 5 fighters shot down. And I think the 39 U.S. aircraft are manned and unmanned. I think that's the total number, manned and unmanned, because because 24 of the Reapers. So the 39 U.S. aircraft, that's manned and unmanned, and that's in 39 days. So I mean, over 39 days, because we haven't lost any, right? Lately, so we have 5 fighters shot down, 4 F-15 Strike Eagles, 1 A-10. I think it's 2 A-10s now, a F-35. A stealth fighter. 20% of the losses were friendly fire. That was 3 F-15 shot over Kuwait. They shot us down. E-3G Sentry AWACS totally destroyed. We had a KC-135 tankers destroyed. We had this naval buildup to Gerald R. Ford, had to go, had to leave. They had a fire, and it's still classified. If that thing actually got hit by a missile, we don't know. I'm hearing it got hit by a missile. The official story is that it was a fire in the laundry. The George Bush is supposed to be en route, but it's taking the long route around the Cape of Good Hope. It's not coming through the Red Sea because it has to avoid the Houthis. So it's supposed to be on location sometime by the end of the month. We got 2 Avenger-class mine countermeasure ships supposed to be there. We got the USS Boxer amphibious readiness group arriving. So this is not a drawdown. It's still a buildup. This war is not over. Okay? This war is not over. But like I said before, he has 60 days. I mean, if they're still going off the AUMF, maybe he can extend it. But we still have the constitutional question, right? Still no congressional authorization. He just announced the strikes in an 8-minute truth. Here we go. Article 1, Section 8. Congress has the power to declare war. Congress has been MIA on its job. And yes, the War Powers Act 17 of 1973, Congress must notify within 48 hours. Yep. And withdraw forces within 60 days without authorization. We're now at day 50. We are now at day 50. So he has 60 days. So he has 10 more days. In accordance with the War Powers Resolution of 1973, he has 10 more days to shit or get off the pot, right? And I know they're trying to find the exit. He needs to take this off ramp because he has 10 more days. But what he's trying to do, because everything that Iran has been doing has been defensive. They've been defending themselves, doing what they had to do, right? It's, but they attacked other countries. Well, it's part of their defense because they had to knock out radars and, so all that. So that was part of their defense. And so end of this month is 60 days, the 60-day clock. But Congress hasn't done anything. Congress abdicated, just like they did in Iraq, just like they did in Afghanistan. And the pattern holds, It's the same thing. This is why, the House, they did reject the effort to withdraw U.S. forces from Iran. They rejected that. The GOP lawmakers, they stuck with Trump. That's what they did, man. And the founders, and I keep going back to this, man, because this is the foundation of our country, and this is what we really have to get back to. Because the founders gave Congress, I'm going to keep saying this over and over, but it gave power to declare war for one reason, to make it hard, to force a debate, to force accountability. There's no accountability. If you want to hold your representatives accountable, you will not vote for them. You will vote them out of office in November 2026 because they have abdicated their authority. They abdicated to the king. You have to force people's representatives to look the American people in the eye. They represent you. The president is just the guy. He's just up there. They make them look you in the eye and say, look, not the president. And this is what they want, right? The president shouldn't be the one doing this. It should be your representatives looking you in the eye and telling you we're sending your sons and daughters to die. And here's why. They have to do that. Your representatives have to do that. We have 13 dead, 370 wounded, $20 billion in the first month, and not one congressional declaration of war, not one vote that puts every member of Congress on record. That is not America first. This is the same Washington machine that gave us Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan. It just has a different logo and a different person on it. But it's the same thing. It's the same shit. It's the same garbage. Same thing. Joe Olson says selective service will require draft registration by December 2026. Yeah, it's gonna be. I think they're talking about automatic, man. They're talking automatic. Carolyn say wish they would put Epstein's sex business in cartoon or Lego, but they have. No, Carolyn, they have put the Epstein stuff out there in the Lego things. They have all of them. They even have one about Melania. They actually have one about Melania. I mean, it is unbelievable, man. They've been on point. I mean, they've definitely winning the troll game for sure, right? They definitely winning the troll game. Jamie, how you doing, man? Y'all kind of quiet over there, man, in Getter Chat, man. Look at that. It's 382 views. Usually we have about 1,500, but hey, people may be out, man. It's summertime, it's spring, it's nice. It's a nice day here in Idaho. Shit, I almost started not to do the show. I started to just go AWOL. Like, I'm not doing the show. It's nice outside. But I wouldn't do that. It's good to see all you guys, for real. Good to see you. Was it Representative Dennis Kucinich banning Gaza protests at colleges was to prevent anti-war movement? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, that's what that was, Joe. Absolutely. So now, so to end the show, like I always do, like I'm trying to do every time, we're gonna go back to the Federalist Papers, the refounding segment, the refounding of America, because this is what we have to do. We have to refound America, because everything that's going on now, it connects right back to this, or it connects right back to these Federalist Papers. So this week's paper that I want to talk about, and I touched on it a little bit, is Federalist number 69 by Alexander Hamilton, the real character of the executive. And understanding these papers and understanding where we are, right? You guys we are living it. You know where we are. So we did Federalist 10. We did, what was it, 51. Now we're at 69. Dude, because these papers hit home. Okay, they hit home. Hamilton in Federalist number 69. Hamilton argues that the president, as commander in chief, is far more limited than a king or even a state governor. That's the way it was supposed to be. So you guys have to understand, right? This is how it's supposed to be. Where are we? Hamilton, the president's authority as commander in chief, nominally the same with that of the King of Great Britain, but in substance much inferior. The president commands the military, but Congress declares war and appropriates funds. Hamilton specifically distinguishes between the power to command forces already raised versus the power to raise those forces. Congress holds the latter. So Hamilton wrote, I'll read a quote from Hamilton. Hamilton wrote that the president's war power would amount to nothing more than the supreme command and direction of military and naval forces. He cannot initiate war unilaterally. So, Hamilton wrote Federalist 69 to explain to the American people why the president was not a king. He said it right there in plain English. He said it. The president commands the forces, but Congress decides if we go to war at all. That's it. We're 50 days into Operation Epic Fury with 14 Americans dead. No declaration of war from Congress. So I want you to ask yourself, are we living under the Constitution Hamilton described, or are we living under something else? That's the question. And that's why I've changed my stance from America first to America only, not America first, not America's turn, America only. And that's where the refounding starts. And the refounding hopefully will start here with the Radical Republicans live show. And again, I thank you all for coming in, tuning in, and watching. Sort of breeze through this. So I can check the chat, see if you guys want to talk about anything. Got any questions, answers, talks? Chilling, bro, just listening. Jamie say, chilling, bro, just listening to you. I mean, Jamie knows. Jamie's a retired chief petty officer. One of my great friends. He's been on the show before. I'm going to have to bring Jamie back. Since he retired, since Jamie's retired, he can actually, well, I don't know. He still has a government job. But are we living in the America that Alexander Hamilton describes in Federalist 69? I don't think so. I think we're way past. We haven't. People argue this. Well, the Constitution ended in blah 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 1913, but we haven't been a country that has lived or been governed by the Constitution. If you think about it, probably got to go back to 1913 when it was handed over to the Federal Reserve. But this is where we are, guys. This is where we are in this country. And it's not the country of our founding fathers. It's not the country that I want to leave my kids and my grandson. So somehow, and I don't know how, because they're putting the cage around us. You know, the CBDCs are coming, the smart cities, 15-minute smart cities. We have nothing but leeches. We have Zionists. We have communists. We are in a fight for our country. I had a friend, well, matter of fact, I mean, he's been on the show before. He's been on the show before. I just said. Uh-oh. I just got a text from my wife. I forgot something at the store. But we need to somehow take this country back, because we are being round up like pigs and put in cages. Let me say it like that. At some point, we got to fight back. At some point, we have to, and it starts with taking our Congress back. We have to, like I said, if we have to remove all 535 members of Congress, We need to start there because they have abdicated their duties. None of them are living their oath. None of them are honoring their oath. And we have, in my opinion, a person that believes he is the king. And it hurts me to say that. It hurts me to say that. So, but since I've got something at the store, I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna end the show early tonight, 15 minutes early, but we actually covered everything. So let me just pop out of here. And maybe we'll get back to this at some point. Maybe we'll get back to this at some point in this country. So thank you guys for tuning in live. I appreciate you. I'll see you guys next week, God willing. Thank you for tuning in to the Radical Republicans live show. Love you guys to death. I'll see you next week.
I used to be a rolling stone, you know. If the cause is right, I'd leave to find the answer on the road. I used to be a heart beating for someone, but the times have changed. The less I say, the more my work gets done.